Hi, Knit Witches, it's me, Cat Dad, or the Knitted Anus. Hey, do you guys remember watching that show that we're never gonna watch again called, I forget what it's called, this one? Do you remember when Eleven was in that secret lab where they were trying to get her to, like, lift things with her brain and, like, do telepathy and stuff? What if I told you that the American government actually spent about 40 years trying to do this? And they said that they stopped it, but what if they didn't? I don't know. All right, dudes, let's talk about Monkey Ultron, right? Okay, so its predecessor was called Project Artichoke. Started in 1951, Project Artichoke, the primary goal was to determine whether a person could be involuntarily made to perform an act of attempted assassination. Do you ever hear of the Manchurian Candidate? Yeah, they literally wanted to do that. Most of the stuff that you hear in movies is from real life things that we tried in real life and spent a lot of money on and gave actual thought and, a lot of effort. We put a lot of effort into this kind of stuff. Instead of like putting people in homes and like feeding the country, we were like, what if we could make Steve down the road kill the president? What if? Let's just see if we can do it, guys. Why not? We have endless funds, and these taxpayers are dumb. They're never going to want anything from us, so we can just spend their money. MK Ultra's scope was broad, with activities carried out under the guise of research at more than 80 institutions aside from the military, including colleges and universities, hospitals, prisons, pharmaceutical companies. The CIA operated using front organizations, although some top officials at these institutions were aware of the CIA's involvement, which I suspect is the same exact thing to this day. Because, once again, they don't change anything. They have one playbook that they've ever used, and that's the only playbook they'll ever use, which is why we know exactly what they're going to do and how they're going to try and stop us and all that stuff, because they have one playbook. The American public didn't even know about MK Ultra until about 25 years after it started because someone submitted a FOIA request. Yeah, that's how we know. Not because they told us, because they didn't. You know that the thing that you're working on is good and beneficial to a lot of people when the origin of the project starts like this. During the early 1940s, Nazi scientists working in the death camps of Auschwitz and Dachau conducted interrogation experiments on human subjects. That's the birth of MK Ultra, right? American historian Stephen Kinzer argues that the CIA project was a continuation of these earlier Nancy experiments, citing the numerous German scientists who were hired to work for the U.S. as part of Operation Paperclippy. What's that again? What's Operation Paperclippy? Oh, yeah, that's right. It's when Alan Dulles decided, before we get rid of all these Germans, I just realized they're actually all my friends. So if I could actually rescue like most of them, that would be great for me and the companies that I work for, because we like these guys. Honestly, we kind of prop them up. We kind of ask them to do everything that they're doing. We're not going to tell anyone that, but that's kind of the truth. Don't worry though, guys. When we brought all of these Nancys to America and let them live with us, we identified them so everyone knew that they were Nancys and that you shouldn't listen to them. Oh, wait, what's that? Oh, we put one of them in charge of NASA. Okay, so never mind. But look, here's a whole bunch of Nancys that we rescued. Thank goodness, dude. We couldn't have done spaceships without them. We needed the Nancys. We didn't have science in America before the Nancys. So pathetic. That's 104 rocket scientists that we saved from there. That's just rocket scientists. People always say, the Russians, they were recruiting too. They had their own Oppie Papy Clippy. That's not true. The Russians were, for the most part, trying to get all these guys because they wanted them to suffer and pay for all the stuff that they did. But America said, those are my friends. Come on. And then we saved them. And then a frickin' Nancy ran NASA for about 30 years. Not a joke. Have you dudes ever seen a Nancy chillin' harder than this? Look at him. He's got his feet kicked up on his big American desk after doing all of his German Nancy crimes. Comes to America, he says, man, Alabama, these are my people, and the weather's great. And I've said it a million times, but I've been to this museum where they have Wernher von Braun's office still. You can go look at it. And, and look, on his chair, see this little spot? Everyone, when you go through the museum, they say, oh, look, you can see a little spot where Wernher von Braun's head was resting on. That's from his Nazi hair gel. It's still on his gross chair in his gross office. Hey, look at this Nazi office. But anyway, this dude used slave labor knowingly. I think at Auschwitz too. This dude's a bad guy, but we let him do whatever. Anyway, we were talking about MK Ultra, right? So what did they do during MK Ultra? Well, they just drugged everyone against their will. They didn't ask them. They just did it. And then when people were like, I don't want this to happen to me anymore, they were like, shut up, you idiot.
I was given a glass of Kool-Aid, and so were the other children. This Kool-Aid was spiked with LSD. It was horrible.
In the early days of the Cold War, the CIA ordered the creation of a secret program intended to find ways of mind control. They funded an army of psychiatric institutions across the United States and Canada to perform experiments on unsuspecting patients using psychedelic drugs, sensory deprivation, electroshock treatment, and more.
Canada, too.
The program was known by its codename, MK Ultra.
These are bad dudes.
At the end of the Korean War, a number of freed American POWs came home seemingly brainwashed and espousing communist propaganda. American officials suspected that the soldiers had been subjected to what they thought were new communist mind control techniques.
Yeah, communist mind control techniques, like taking care of your fellow man and seeing the benefits of that. Allowing people to have a roof and food. Mind control. That is honestly mind control. You know how you stop terrorism? You provide the terrorists a better option than terrorism. Very easy. Give them any other option besides terrorism, and they usually take it. So,
alarmed by the situation, the newly formed CIA allocated $25 million for psychiatric experiments on human beings.
$25 million.
It was the most secret program ever conducted by the CIA in the United States. Patients at psychiatric hospitals, prisoners in federal institutions, and even people in the public were given drugs without their awareness or consent and experimented upon.
Wow.
Initial projects within MKUltra included Operation Midnight Climax.
They established what were called safe houses, where prostitutes would lure men to these apartments. And then once the men were in the apartments, they were dosed with LSD.
Bro, the CIA needs to have a group meeting about consent.
And then they were basically studied by CIA scientists, usually behind a two-way mirror.
Another common practice was the hosting and observing of LSD-induced parties with live music. These parties were called acid tests, and the culture that grew out of them played a key role in the development of the hippie and psychedelic movements a few years later.
Yeah, guys, anyone who fell for the hippie BS, you just did a state-mandated event. They said, oh man, all these people are talking about civil rights and anti-war, blah, blah, blah. What if we flood them with LSD and we say, yo, tune in, drop out? So yeah, all the hippies, you guys were, I think, also part of the MK Ultra experiment, and you failed. You failed humanity's test. You succeeded at MK Ultra, because ever since then, they were like, wait, we'll just induce mass psychosis on everyone. We'll just traumatize them, and then we'll control them. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
However, some of the most damaging experiments occurred at the Allen Memorial Institute in Montreal, Canada.
Canada.
There, under the direction of infamous Scottish-American psychiatrist Dr. Ewan Cameron, unsuspecting patients, many of whom had common ailments such as postpartum depression, were experimented on with aggressive drug cocktails and extreme techniques.
My father...
Like, these guys are such bozos. Everyone is reacting very rationally to how horrific this world is. Like, it's brutal, it's hard to live, it's hard to exist, and then they go, what's wrong with you? Why are you complaining about it? There must be something wrong with you. Let's put LSD in your body a lot.
Was a victim of Dr. Cameron. He was a 27-year-old, healthy skier, canoeer, very athletic, and he had asthma.